Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thank you very much for attending. I know it's the last session after a long couple of days. So we're here to talk about well-being. We're not experts. We are here because we all care a lot about this topic, and we just want to share ideas and initiatives that have worked well for us and for our studios, and to make sure that everybody is aware of what support and resources are available to you at Sumo. And we just hope to really give you tools and ideas that you can share with your own studios. So we're going to go through and introduce ourselves. My name is Cherish. I am the marketing executive for both Sumo Leamington and Lab 42. I also have a nervous stutter, so if you notice me stutter, no, you didn't. So I am the marketing executive for both Sumo Leamington and Lab 42, so I'm really lucky that I get to be part of two extremely supportive studio cultures, but who both tackle it in different ways. This is a very important topic to me. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I'm also a safe in our world ambassador.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Adam Doctor, Learning and Development Advisor, officially based at Sumo Sheffield, but support all group studios. So I've been a mental health first aider since December 2019. I'm a passionate advocate about supporting people with wellbeing and their mental health. And I've run our mental health awareness course for managers, as well as our mental health first aid program.
Hello everybody, my name's Kirsty Kirby. I'm the Studio Operations and Engagement Manager at Lab 42, and I'm a mental health first aider. And I guess my job in a nutshell is to try and make Lab 42 a really cool place and great place to work. Why is this an important topic to me? Well, I have lived experience with depression, have done for most of my life now. I've become pretty good at managing it myself most of the time. But what it's made me realise is how influential the workplace can be on your well-being. So that's kind of why it's important to me.
Hello, I'm Sarah, Studio Engagement Manager over at Sumo Leamington, also mental health first aider. So for me, this topic is super important. I've lived and experienced toxic workplaces in the past, and I personally never want anyone to feel that way. So for me, this is super important to ensure that our people feel safe, welcome, supported, and ultimately just can focus on doing what they do best and make amazing games.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Terry Goodwin. I'm the studio director of Lab 42. I've been a mental health first aider for a few years now. Unfortunately, because I'm last, they've said the things that would have been my answer. But I'm very fortunate I've been the studio director for only 4 months, and I'm very fortunate that when I stepped into the role at our studio, we already had a great framework for supporting people in their well-being already. But why it matters to me is that working in the games industry is not like a default job. It's like people are here because that's what they want to do. And if we're not supporting people, we're not really helping them to be the best that they can be in achieving their dreams in the games industry.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to start off by just talking about what does well-being even mean, and why does it matter? Do you want to take that one, Adam?
Thank you. So well-being refers to the overall state, being healthy, happy and content. So in the workplace, it encompasses the physical, mental and emotional health of our employees. It goes beyond the absence of illness, and it looks to foster environments that can be supportive, encouraging, and ultimately lead to productivity, job satisfaction, and engagement. So at Sumo Group, one of our pillars is family, a group to belong to. So by us all really putting that priority on our own well-being, as well as creating those cultures where we can really look out for each other and make it really supportive, it's can hopefully allow us to uphold that pillar successfully.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
I've forgotten the question now.
What does well-being mean, and why does it matter?
I think what I've observed is that projects come and projects go, and some projects are great and some projects are not so great. So if you can maintain a culture where the well-being is pretty consistent, that sometimes gets you through the natural highs and lows, ups and downs of the project. So that's why it's important.
Awesome, thank you. So talking on culture, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was creating an open and inclusive culture. This does include kind of more complex things like intersectionality and its impacts. For example, people from underrepresented groups are more likely to struggle with imposter syndrome. People with ADHD are more likely to struggle with anxiety. There was a really good talk on that yesterday from Hannah. If you missed it, I would recommend watching it when it does go live, where Hannah talks in quite a lot of depth about neurodiversity in the games industry. It's very relevant. So in terms of inclusive cultures, is there anything we would like to talk about? The Kirstals.
Thanks, Cherryberry. I don't know if anybody went to this morning's talk on the future of inclusivity, I think it was called. And we all know that the benefits of having a diverse team. We know that it fosters creativity, we have different opinions. So it's really important. So at Lab 42, we try to have a think about culture additions rather than culture fits, because we're not just looking for a one size sort of fits all solution. I think that's the main thing for me. So.
I think for me, it creates that sense of belonging for everybody and ensuring that everybody has that voice. It's so important to ensure that everybody is listened to, because everybody has thoughts and feelings which are equally as valid as anybody else. So it's important that we take that, we listen to it, and we reflect, and we really kind of take that to kind of improve and work together and just, yeah, ultimately just make everything so much more better for everybody.
So how can we take responsibility for creating an open and inclusive culture? Ted. There you go.
So I think the way I view it is that responsibility for that, it starts at the top of an organization. It's all very well having kind of everyone looking out for each other, but if there's not that support from the very top level of it, then you're not going to be able to make the necessary structural changes to accommodate what you need there. So you need to be able to really grow and support a culture of diversity where differences are celebrated rather than degraded, so that people feel like they can bring their whole selves to work, because it's exhausting to not be able to do that, and then you're not performing at your best. People need to be able to feel like that they can raise problems and be listened to, and it not become a problem for them that they've raised those problems. And I think that has to be an institutional thing that goes throughout the layers of management at a studio. And I think also as leaders in an organization, you need to make sure that you are approachable for that very reason. If people don't feel like they can go to you, then it can be difficult for them to feel like they can go to anybody about the problems that they have. And I think there's a responsibility to the individual studios to be very clear about this at sort of a policy level in the studio charters that we should all have, that show quite clearly these are our values in this sense and what they mean, why they're important. But still, I do think that beyond that management layer, everyone should really be looking out for each other as well. In addition to that, we should be checking in on each other, supporting each other, that sort of thing. And also owning up when we individually make mistakes, or as an organization make mistakes, so that we can actually take that feedback and we can make things better rather than shutting it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. So in keeping with that theme, Kirsty and Sarah, a huge part of what you do is supporting better wellbeing from that point of view as well, and making sure that anything that's in the studio charter is respected and lived at the studio. Would you like to tell us a bit more about how you both do that?
So first thing from a Sumo Leamington perspective is flexibility. So we're a remote first studio, so having that flexibility of our team is super important. We do that through our core hours, so we have set core hours for the week. One thing we introduced was our core hours being 10 till 3. The reason why we did that is because it allows people to have that work-life balance that they need. So if people want to do the school pickup, have certain hobbies that they want to get involved in, we kind of embrace that and we encourage people to have that kind of work-life balance. So that's a key thing for us as a studio.
Yeah, there's things you can do irrespective of what working model your studios that didn't come out right, working to. So whether you're remote first, studio first, or a hybrid. The charter being a really important thing as well. So it really should be setting out the values of the studio. Things like, are you considering different ways of working? So respecting that not all folk work in the same ways. You know, some people prefer things to be in writing, some people prefer verbal communications, etc. So are you being flexible with that? At Lab 42, we have quite a comprehensive induction program, and we include signposting our mental health first aiders, for example, as a standard part of our induction, the same as we would signpost our physical first aiders and our fire marshals and where the fire exits are. So we're trying to sort of normalise it, I guess, just make it a standard part of the process. It's no big deal. These are the mental health first aiders that we're available to talk to. It's just a normal thing. We have a fantastic team of producers who make a point in their check-ins of going around the team and, you know, just a simple how you doing around the team so they can gauge the mood of the project and the mood of the team, and things like that can be incorporated whatever model your studio's working to. But then there are differences as well with us having remote first and studio first. Do you want to?
Yeah, definitely. So just on that kind of topic of check-ins, so we do something as a studio where we have temperature checks and we do them over Teams. So every Friday, I think it is, or Monday, we send out an automated message through Teams just to get an idea of how the team are feeling. That's kind of split from a project, but also kind of feature teams within the project. So we get an idea of if there's any concerns, how their confidence level is for the upcoming week as well, which is super important to kind of highlight if there's any certain areas that we may need to kind of factor in. It's all anonymous as well, so it gives people the chance to be as open and honest as they want to be. But we also encourage people to come and talk to us. Myself, line managers, our studio director, we've got a very open culture in that aspect that we're here to listen and kind of support our teams in any way that we can.
Yeah, so we're mostly in studio, so we try and take advantage of that. So Wellbeing is a lot about connectivity. It's about getting to know people. So we try and take advantage that we've got a studio in town. We have things like a buddy system for new starters, particularly new starters if they're coming new to the area or even new to the country. So we try to pair them up with somebody that we think that they'll probably get on with. So it doesn't, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same discipline or anything like that. Just somebody that we get a sense that they would get on with, who can just, show them where the best pubs are, show them where the banks are, show them where the post office are, things like that. Just go to support. While the weather's nice, we take our one-to-ones with our line managers in the park. We go for walks. We use the outdoors, which, is always a nice environment as well. And then we have a sort of range of formal and informal activities. So by formal, I'm kind of talking about the stuff that is led by me in the studio, and informal is more stuff that organically grows from folk just being connected to each other and being mates. So just a very quick rundown. We have a knowledge sharing scheme at Lab 42, and it's knowledge sharing and it's non-hierarchical and it's not within discipline silos. So it's just sharing knowledge from one person to another. So that again just helps that connectivity. What else have we got? We've got the Lab 42 Fun Squad. Whoop, whoop. And that's just a bunch of people that are in charge of just saying, hey, the sun's out, let's all go down the pub, and a lot of it's organic. A lot of it isn't forced fun, because I think once you get into forced fun, you sort of get into dodgy ground. We have a coder that has a discussion group that's run twice a week. Again, that just gets all the coders together and they have something in common. So it's all about organic connectivity, and I will stop. Stop.
No, I love it. Go on forever.
No, stop it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've seen a lot at both studios, actually. And I think one of the interesting things is the knowledge sharing. Yeah, it's good to you to learn from people, but when people share their knowledge, their self-esteem tends to go. Like, there is nothing better for killing the old imposter syndrome than, people really appreciating what you've shared and feeling like, oh, maybe I do know what I'm talking about, which is just great. So I believe all 4 of you are mental health first aiders. Am I correct? Adam, would you like to tell us? Sorry. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about mental health first aiders, especially from a group level?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So mental health first aiders are there to provide that first point of contact and that initial conversation for you to reach out to. So whether you're really struggling and you're having a really tough time, or if you're just a bit down and want to talk it through with someone or someone between the two, you're always welcome to reach out to one of our mental health first aiders. So they're not there to diagnose medical conditions or provide professional counselling or that level of support, but they are there to listen. They have been trained in active listening and giving you that space to talk through whatever's going on. And they can provide those signposting opportunities to work with you and to help you take those next steps to get the support that you may need. We've got over 70 now across the group, which I'm really happy about. We're continuing to train more. And so they're in most studios. You're always welcome to contact your local mental health first aiders if that's easier for you, because they've got that prior context, if that's helpful. But equally, you are more than welcome to contact a mental health first aider at any of our studios. Sometimes having that distance can be really helpful. We've had people before that have reached out, which has been great. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I only found out recently that you could reach out to mental health first aider that's not from your studio, which I think is such a good thing, because some people do like that extra layer of privacy or don't want to be that vulnerable with somebody they already know, which I thought was a really good thing. So at Lab 42, you have quite a few mental health first aiders. So Terry, what are some things you can do as a studio to encourage more people to volunteer? Because I know that's the tricky part for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I think to start with, the business has to be fully behind it, because it's invariably going to take up time that's quote unquote development time, right? If someone wants to volunteer, or we need the producers, for example, to be fully bought into the idea that there could be some scheduled and non-scheduled time out of the mental health first aiders' time that they're going to have to dedicate to this sort of thing. So if people don't see that that's supported, like they might see that there's friction where someone's time is being used up to support someone, coming from the sense of like you're not hitting your targets, things like that, then it's the people are not going to feel like they can volunteer to do it. So along those lines, also people need to know that it's there. Like that seems very obvious, but you have to be quite explicit. No matter how many communications you put out about anything, you'll find that there's people that just ignore a certain amount of them, right? So you have to be quite persistent with that. Like call it out in your studio updates. Say these are the mental health first aiders. And things like that to make it visible, so there's people that can see it as an aspirational thing. Oh, I would like to help out in that way.
Awesome. So mental health first aiders are a resource that is available to everyone at Sumo. I'm sorry, I keep turning my back to everybody over there. I'm sorry. So we've put together a little slide of other useful resources. It's not a pretty slide, but it should be clear. Feel free to take a picture if you need to, if it will help you remember where things are later, to help you refer to. So this is a list of resources that we've compiled together. For mine is Safe in Our World. As you know, as I already mentioned, I am a Safe in Our World ambassador. They are a video game industry specific mental health and well-being charity, and they are very dedicated to encouraging people to talk a little bit more and create these kind of cultures. So I do recommend it as a really good resource. Would anybody else like to talk about some of the resources?
Yes, obviously we've talked about the mental health first aiders already, but I want to flag the Help a Hand app and the support from the Employee Assistance Programme from Unum that's just in the UK. But on the Help a Hand app, you can book video consultations. It's a really good service. So there's lots of different things. There's things like physiotherapy and financial advice on there as well. But the two I particularly want to highlight is you can book remote GP appointments. So you can do them from the comfort of your own home. You can generally get appointments booked in pretty quickly with full trained professionals. The other resource on there is the mental health support sessions they have with trained counsellors. So this was previously capped at 6 sessions per person per year, but it's become unlimited. So it's a really good resource, whether you need them for yourself or to be able to signpost our colleagues and look out for people on. So I definitely recommend it. I know not in the UK, in Canada, there's TELUS Health for Timber, Latham Hawk, Vancouver. And our India studios, I've got an employee assistance program with Trueworth Wellness. So it's good to look up where your local resources are, but those in the UK, definitely recommend those calls. And much shorter waiting lists as well for the support sessions on there, because I know sometimes with the NHS it can be quite a long waiting list, so you can go straight through. So.
Great, awesome, because I think it's easy to forget just how many resources we do have, and how a lot of them do make accessing help quite a lot easier. And faster, certainly. Another one I wanted to point out quickly before I forget is Shout, which is a text line that you can text if you're having a little bit of a mental health crisis. I really like that one because it's text, and I know that a lot of people hate talking on the phone, myself included, and I'm not going to tell someone my problem's on the phone, but by text, yes. Awesome. Okay. So we are flying through this, guys. We're doing well. Right, okay, folks. So the key takeaway we kind of wanted to talk about with everybody is just that creating a healthy culture is something that is everyone's responsibility. Yes, it is absolutely important that you are supported by your studio and that you have the ability and the knowledge and you know who to go to if you feel like that kind of culture is not being built, if we aren't keeping to our studio charters. So what are some practical ways we can support each other each and every day?
So I've got a few examples of what we do as a studio at Sumo Leamington. So just going back to some points made earlier. So we have quite a lot of Teams channels set up, mixed between kind of studio and social. But one of our channels is dedicated to health and wellbeing, and it's an important space for us to everybody to share resources, tips and tricks. If people are having a difficult day, we can pop in there, have a chat. We also have a Pause for Thought, which the lovely Cindy helped us set up when she was over with us, which we've continued on. The idea of Pause for Thought is that on a Tuesday afternoon, we just stop what we're doing for half an hour, we get together in a group and just talk about mental health. We've kind of adapted it a little bit slightly, so we set a topic per month. So it's things like self-esteem, neurodiversity, anxiety, stress, and we just focus the month just talking about that topic as a group, being open. It's a safe place, so anything said in that call it stays in there, but it just really brings everyone together, an opportunity to talk about anything that they want to. And then the other point that I want to raise is around events and what we do as a studio. So being a remote first studio, we have people all across the UK, but also outside of the UK. So we've got time zones to kind of play with as well. So we try and mix our kind of social gatherings with physical in-person events, virtual, but also some offline events. So some of the virtual events that we've been doing recently have been things like we've had a virtual walking challenge to encourage people to get out and about. We've all signed up. We've had a different kind of lengths that we do. Everyone gets a medal at the end. We've got a sunflower growing competition at the moment. And And it's just an opportunity for people to do stuff and interact, but it's not restricted by time zones, which just lets everybody be included in that. So yeah, that's something that's working really well. And the last thing I wanted to just kind of raise is around training and learning on what we do as a studio to kind of support that. So again, we have a channel dedicated to that, and once a month we dedicate one day where everybody has a training and learning day that we really focus on personal development. And the channel just has so much activity in it with what everyone's learning, sharing, and it's just amazing to see what everyone's up to. So yeah, there's some key things that we do from a practical perspective as a team.
One of the things that I think is really important is just make sure that you treat everybody as an individual. So try to get to know the person outside the workplace. So understand a little bit more about their family, about their pets, about what sort of music they like, what games they like, what films they're into. So at I think we do this as well. At Lab 42, again, part of our induction process is just to have a profile of a new starter with all the sorts of things that you can start a conversation with them about. I see you've got a dog. Everybody loves pets. We've got a pet pics channel just with pictures of people's, look at my cat. So it's just we build it into our induction so people have got something to start a conversation over. So it removes a little bit of that awkwardness. We also ask about neurodiversity in our new starter process. Now, people may not feel safe enough to be open about that, particularly right at the start of their journey at Lab 42. But I think the fact that we're asking about it at least shows that we are interested in it and it is a thing, and it's not a thing, you know what I mean? It's just, again, normalizing things. Same with pronouns. That's part of the information we ask about. So people want to tell us what their pronouns are. That's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay just to be who you are. So again, it's just about making things kind of standard, not making a big deal out of things.
Just one more point is recognition and just saying thank you. Saying thank you can go such a long way. It's such a simple thing to do. So recognise your peers, celebrate successes. We do something on a Friday where we have a Good News Friday, where we just share something that's gone well that week, something that we've learned, celebrate someone that's helped us, or just something that we're super grateful for that week. So just celebrate people and recognise them.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that's something that's quite contagious in terms of studio culture. When one person does that kind of thing, it very quickly becomes part of your culture. For example, our design director, whenever he introduces someone and takes them around the office, it'll be great artist, great writer. This is so-and-so. They're really good at this. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But it does, it gives to that overall feeling of feeling valued and appreciated, which is such a key part of well-being, and bringing your whole self to work as well, feeling like you can be honest and your truest self every day. So I believe that's all of our questions. Does anybody else have anything they would like to talk to or add? You good? Okay. Instead of questions at the end, we were actually thinking, well, as well as questions, we thought we would like to invite you all to share your experiences and any tips you have, anything you have at your studio that's worked really well, and also ask questions if you want to.
Hello, thank you. That was really great. I've got two questions. One was a quick one. So that temperature check idea sounds amazing. So how can you share that to every studio? Because we certainly on our team got a problem that we have so many people, we're all so busy, but it's hard to find out how people are feeling.
Yeah, definitely. So that's something that we have automated. So we do it through Microsoft Teams. Every Friday it's automatically sent through. And it just, I think it's probably 5 or 6 questions that we ask in an Excel sheet. Actually, no, it's an online office form. So yeah, and then that transfers into an Excel sheet that we can then map. So what we can do is we can reflect on the previous week and see if trends, if people, like the line's going up, then that's great. If it's going down, then we know there's a problem. But it's quite good that we can kind of split that by a certain feature team. So if we know that there's a problem in that feature team. So it's a super simple form. It's definitely something that we can share and it can be adapted. However, you can add questions, take things away. So yeah, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to kind of share what we've got.
Cool, thank you. And then the second one was, are there specific challenges of a remote first or a hybrid studio that you don't have, you know, in studio? And if so, how do you overcome those?
A very good question. A very difficult question. I think remote first or in studio, you can kind of adapt to that. When you add the hybrid model, it gets a little bit more tricky. I think from my perspective, I think I mentioned this earlier, it's the importance of making things accessible to everybody, which is why the split of the virtual, the in-person, but also the offline thing I think is really key, because that doesn't mean that people have to be sat in front of a computer. We're sitting in front of computers all day. So the last thing some people want to do, especially depending on time zone, is sit in front of a computer and do a virtual event. So the offline events allow people to be together, but not at the exact same time. And then we have certain channels or certain chats where people can share what they're doing. Like the sunflower growing competition. It's amazing because people just post updates on how the sunflowers are growing, and it's a nice way to connect. So yeah, things like that. I think it's just trying to think outside the box a little bit and trying to be inclusive and support everybody. But ultimately, speaking to your team, understand what they want to do, where they want to go, is so important with that feedback. I hope that answers it. It's a bit tricky one.
Hey, my question was also about that temperature check thing, because I just think that sounds brilliant. Who is like actioning on that once you've got that data? Because obviously you said it's anonymous, which I think is important for everyone taking part and being really honest, but who's like looking at that sheet and what are they doing?
Yeah, so ultimately that was driven by our production team. So every Monday morning they kind of get together as a production team and look at that data, see if anything's gone downhill drastically, then we know that's an area. I also catch up with the production team on a bi-weekly basis, so we review it as well, so I can see what support I can give them. So it's just a case of looking at it, thinking about it, chatting about it, what can we do, but also highlighting to the team if there is a certain area that's come up of concerns, if it is repeatedly coming up, what can we do as a group together to try and solve that, and making sure that everybody's included in that conversation and that discussion. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. I also wanted to say, Cherish, we have a pets channel as well, and that is like our like best thing at SEMO Newcastle, in my opinion. But yeah, thank you.
I think this question is going to be predominantly for Adam, actually. I really like the idea of sharing our mental health first aid resource across studios, because I think you're right. I think sometimes it's just a little bit too close to home, that possibly there could be somebody that is sat opposite you that is also your mental health first aider. Is there one place where all our mental health first aiders are listed? Is there?
Yes, on Dojo.
In one place with all of them?
Yeah.
I did not know that, so thank you.
I'll send you a link.
Could you send them to me?
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the talk. It was great. As an avid bottler-upper who doesn't like to talk about their feelings or raise the flag, I've had experiences where Kirsty in particular has reached out to me without me knowing I needed someone to reach out to me at that point, and it really helped. So thank you very much for that. But how do you know at what point to do that without treading ahead of that point? Unless you're a superhero. But
Yeah. So it's something we talk about in the mental health awareness course doing our mental health first aid course. So it's just about spotting those signs and what those signs are will be maybe completely different for one person than another. Really, it's about long-term changes. So, for instance, like not having your camera on a call, for some people, that might just be part of their personality and their character trait. That's absolutely fine. But if you start to notice someone all of a sudden, they're not having their camera on or they're starting, and whatever that change is, it's just about keeping an eye and then sensitively approaching the conversation and asking those, inviting people to talk, giving them that space if they want to. Obviously, if they don't want to and they're not ready, that's okay. But just saying what you've noticed and then inviting them to talk, and then probably doing it multiple times over a period if they keep saying no, and then at some point they may be ready to talk, and hopefully you're then able to help them.
Sorry, I was going to. I've made a list as I went along, I'm afraid. A couple of them already been asked, which was the temperature check thing again in Sheffield. Would be great. I think that would be a great solution. And there's a lot that's happening in Leamington and Lab 42. A lot more coming to Sheffield, or I mean, am I just missing them in emails of what's happening in Sheffield, or are they just not happening?
There's lots of conversations going on. There's things like the temperature checks. It's not something it's something we're definitely looking into. We'll start those conversations now. Mental health first aid is a big part of what we do, and we're looking at ways we can be more visible and support more people. So no solid plans of other things that are happening, but conversations will definitely be continuing. So.
Cool. And to touch on the where do I find the list, can we pin that to Dojo's front page?
Yeah.
So it's always there. And maybe something, how do I become a first aider? Click this link if you want to know more. Because I can never find anything on Dojo.
So
Sorry.
we do have a pathway with the link to register your interest if you want to become a mental health first aider, as well as that list of who all the mental health first aiders are. But we will we'll make sure that is nice and easy to find and gets to you. So thank you.
I think that covers my list anyway. So.
Thank you. So there's been a really warm response to the idea of distant mental health first aiders. I think for a lot of people, their local environment, if it can be part of the problem, it can be very difficult to kind of find that way to broach things or talk things through, and that can work both ways around. So I was wondering whether there's value in actually kind of lowering the bar on that idea and saying, do you need to feel that you need to reach out to a mental health first aider to actually be talking to someone outside your team and getting that kind of buddy, almost co-mentor support? So I was starting to get warm on the idea of actually having cross-studio buddies where you have a regular session where you chat to a peer in another studio, and that's there to act as that. I'm not needing to talk to a mental health first aider yet, but let's talk about some of the issues that it's maybe difficult for me to raise in a one-to-one or things like that. So as far as questions go, the question is, how badly thought out is that idea, and how to take that further if it's a good idea. And then the second one, and this is from the point of view of as a manager talking to people, we've got lists of useful resources, and I know they've been around for a while. I think sometimes if I'm suggesting things to people, it can feel a little bit too much like pointing someone at a list is almost, it's kind of not helping. It loses a bit of that connection, and it feels quite impersonal. Now they may be really good resources, but I think there's just a little bit of a psychological barrier. It feels like someone's not actually supported through into those resources. So now that we've had them around for a while, I wonder if we have effectively case studies, people who have used the resources and would be, obviously not in all cases, but willing to provide a little bit of a personal spin on those of, this was my situation. I went to LifeWorks, I texted Shout, those kind of things, just so there's that, rather than this being a list of resources, we see kind of personal anecdotes about this is what helped me out of this situation. Because I think for me, advising people that there are these resources there, it feels nicer to say, not here's a list of resources, but here's people that have been helped in similar situations, so that they can kind of almost see the outcomes more than just the next step.
I think they're both great ideas, yeah. So for the first one, for sort of cross-studio buddy system, yeah, I think it's a really good idea. In terms of how we take it forward, there's potentially a conversation to have after this, and CEOs can be involved in that. But yeah, I really like the idea. And yeah, getting those anecdotes, I think that's really good. So I will I'll make a note of it straight after this and see what we can do. But yeah, really good shout. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I hope your workload wasn't too high.
No, it's okay.
Thanks.
It's good.
Hello. Thank you for the talk. That was really, really good. Yeah, you asked about like sort of sharing experiences and stuff like that. So I'll quickly do that and then ask a quick question. So I think it's worth pointing out. So recently I was part of a hiring process for bringing somebody on board to our Sumo Leamington team. And one question I love to ask people whenever I interview, the first question I always ask is why this job? Like why this one specifically? And like the vast majority of people when answer that question by saying, oh, the culture at Sumo apparently is fantastic, so I really want to work there. Like what we're doing, what you guys are doing, is feeding through to the industry, and it's playing a massive effect in who applies and who wants to join the company, which is fantastic. You know, I've hired people at other companies, and that hasn't been the response. So that's really cool to see. And just from a personal point of view, like thank you, Sarah, and everything you do at Leamington, and like the wider group that what we do. Like you mentioned, like the pause for thought thing, and the resources that we share through there, and the conversations that we had have played a massive part in me understanding more about my anxiety and probably my autism. So like the resources that have been shared through that and the conversations that we've had have been amazing and have been helpful to me, and I know a lot of other people. So thank you everybody here for all the amazing work that you do. My question is, I'm going to be on one of those courses to train to be a mental health first aider. Once you get through that process, what then opens up? Like once you are a mental health first aider, what is the process involved in, you know, receiving messages or trying to support people? Is it just like through Teams, or is there something else that you get involved in?
Yeah, so it's getting that awareness and letting people know that you're a mental health first aider. So you'll be added to that full list. So people go to Sojo and find the list and reach out to you. And it's talking to people, getting the name out there, making sure your team, your wider studio, they know who you are. So you're there should they need to talk to you. And there's other things that happen with it, like you'll be added to a Teams channel with all the other mental health first aiders. Because obviously the aim is to support other people, but supporting yourself is really key in that as well. So as part of the role is to support other mental health first aiders with the conversations they're having as well. And we will run refresher training as well. So it's not like you do the training once and then that's it. But using that support from other mental health first aiders, there's really no expectation for you to do the course and be ready for everything. The support is there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What we do at Lab 42 regarding that is we have two ways of mental health first aid. So we have the ad hoc where we're approached by somebody that needs to talk, or vice versa. I spot something and I approach. But if anybody that knows me, I'm like always running around like a headless chicken. I'm always really busy, and all people, Kirsty's too big. Oh, I don't want to bother her, So what we do at Lab 42 is we set aside a time also where we have mental health first aiders that are we are available. We are going to be sat at our computer or sat in a private space, and if anybody wants to drop in, you're not interrupting. This is a specific dedicated time for you, so it works that way as well. We find that sort of invites people are sort of less hesitant to approach us sometimes that way.
Hi. So in terms of conversations like this where they might be confidential, people may feel awkward about, like say, if like you say, if you have a mental health first aider in the office whose time set aside, people may not even want to be seen to go and talk to a mental health first aider. So are there any strategies you've used to try and shift some of this out of the workplace into a less visible space so that people can actually raise things and book time at home, so we maybe come in late and have a chat to someone about something? Is there anything to...
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it can, you don't want it to be obvious, oh, somebody's chatting to Kirsty, I wonder what that's about. So quite oftentimes, if the weather's nice again, we'll go for a walk, or we'll organise it out of normal hours. I've done some mental health chats at some really odd times, and I think that's one of the things you have to be sort of on board with a little bit as a mental health first aider, that it should take priority, and as Terry said, if it interrupts the day to day, it interrupts the day to day, and that's the way it is. Hopefully, sometime in the nearish future, the Leamington-based studios are going to be moving to a lovely, fancy space, and we're going to have hopefully a really nice well-being room where we can be private and there's no visibility. I'm really looking forward to having that space, so that would be really good too.
Thanks.
Thanks, folks. That was great. It's not really a question. It's just more appreciation. I was on Adam's course last week, everyone, and it gave me such an insight to listening. For what I thought I was helping people, it helped me understand to take a step back to really listen and to allow everyone to come to their own conclusions and help themselves. I've only been with Sumo for about 3 months, based in Leamington area. I've never been with a company that's so loving and kind of the well-being is at the forefront. Sorry. But seriously, I feel like Kirsty, everything that everyone said, that Kirsty is always running around for checking in people. Terry's been great. Sarah's been great. We do the pause meetings. Adam, honestly, I just feel very grateful to be part of Sumo. So